Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tier 2 series where I take a bunch of decks that aren't necessarily hyper-competitive, but is missing a few more moving parts to push it to the meta. I basically grade the Tier 1 decks to be things like Ruby Sapphire, Amber Steel, and even Tier 1.5 decks like Emerald Amethyst Bounce or even Blurple. Today I bring you guys a deck or archetype, I should say, that I believe with a little bit more support can push it to win some larger scale events. Amber Amethyst Princess Queen deck revolves around new cards like the item Queen's Sensor Core to gain lore, Goat Bounce to gain lore, and even the new Wreck-It Ralph card to gain lore. It doesn't have a great answer to dealing with wide board, but it can certainly put pressure on with its alternative lore gain, and usually comes down to the wire at the end of your games. It's certainly a really fun deck to try, especially different versions such as Amber Ruby Princess that a few creators have already put out. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start off with the 1-drops. I run 4 queens. Queen Regal Monarch is a great 1-drop because of the shift target. I think in this format you do need the shift target to deal with multiple things such as locations or just trading into a lot of higher health characters. Daisy Duck even as well if they're running against Amber or aggro. She's just a really good card I think in this meta. And then I ran 4 Cinderella, Ballroom Sensation. Cinderella is usually seen in the Amber Steel Songs deck. I'm not actually playing too many songs, but she is a princess and she is able to sing cards like Friends on the Other Side on turn 2, which is really nice. It's a great opener and definitely catches people off guard. But she's a princess tag and you do need the princess tag in this build. Next, I run 4 Ursulas, Mad Sea Witch, because I also shift into the big Ursula, so she's a great card to do that on turn 2, waiting to shift on turn 5 so that you can prevent other song decks from singing songs. But she's a great challenger +2, so she becomes a +3. So that's also really powerful depending on the matchup as well, especially aggro. Then can't have an Amethyst deck without Snake Bounce. Bounce back your Goats, bounce back your Elsa so you can replay it the next turn. Bounce back a lot of characters that you could reuse, so like Rapunzel's, so you could heal again. So Snake's a great card, and it's also 3/3, so it's good against certain matchups like the Amber Steel decks that want to ping you for 2 damage. Then one of the main lore gains in this deck is Queen's Sensor Core. This card is kind of a little awkward because you like your curve, you want to hit like your 1-drops, and then your 2 you want to hit either your Ursula or maybe a Snake Bounce. So dropping this on 2, like similar to like a flute, is not always the best play early game because you want to be able to establish a board first. So usually like mid to late game when you're able to establish some characters that have more of the princess and queen tags towards the middle of the game is probably where you want to do it. And what I like about this is obviously at the start of your turn, if you have a princess or queen character in play, you gain 1 lore. And in this deck, I run a total of 12 princesses and 14 queens. So about almost half your deck is pretty much full of that, so you're more likely to hit this. And if you have 2 of these out, you're going to be gaining 2 lore at the start of your turn if you have a princess or queen tag. Another great feature about this item is that you could exert it to pay 2 to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a princess or queen character, you may put it into your hand, otherwise put it on top of your deck. So I think it reminds me of that card Pongo where you also pay 2. It was played in a lot of like Amber Mufasa decks back in the day. So it's almost like a draw engine. So if you have no cards, if you're going against like Emerald Steel discard or Amber Steel discard deck, you could use this as a way to get some card draw if they're just discarding your hand. So that's pretty cool, but it really reminds me of like a Sleepy's Flute for Amber Steel songs. Then I ran 2 Poor Unfortunate Souls. This is a ratio that I keep going back between 2, 3, 4. Really just depends. This deck really reminds me of like a Tempo kind of Amethyst Emerald. This card is an action song that costs for 2, and it says return chosen character, item, or location with a cost 2 or less to the player's hand. So you could kind of bounce like their daisies, their smees, anything that's really annoying at the 1 or 2 drop, or even like against Ruby Amethyst, their bounce package like a snake so that they don't bounce back. So things like that. You really use this as a tempo play. You could also sing this with Cinderella. So you could on turn 1 play Cinderella, next turn sing it with this. bounce back their 1-drop, and then you get a 2-drop also as well. So you're kind of winning the board state with this. Yeah, very, very situational card, but it's one of those few that could kind of win you the tempo play in the early games. 3 cost. Fox. Fox is good. It helps you deal with any character. Just the 4 strength is so powerful. Bouncing, again, with your goats or anything else that you want to replay. Your amber cards. Again, Rapunzel is really strong with this specific color combination. So Fox helps you stabilize against those aggro decks. Then I also ran 4 Gastons. Gaston is actually a tech card because there's a lot of cards that I run in here that are high cost ink, which you'll see with like Elsa and stuff. So sometimes getting to that Elsa is not, realistic because you're not really inking that much. Maybe you're like at 5 ink or whatever the whole game, even 6. So you need ways to cheat in your big drops. So Gaston helps you do that. Gaston on 3 could help bring your 5 cost or even 6 cost characters the next turn. And he's a 2/4, so he's solid for that. He survives a little bit, but I'm still thinking about the ratios on this. You could cut him down. I tried Doc. I think Doc was okay, but I felt like he was a little too slow to bring out the bigger guys. So Gaston, I think, paying 2 less actually is really helpful in this game. And then I run 2 Crabs. Crab just helps you trade up. You're running Amber, so Amber doesn't have a lot of high strength naturally, so you need to be able to trade. Fox sometimes isn't enough, or even Crab giving Fox to take out a castle is also strong. Ruby Amethyst is still going to be in the meta. I think right now it's like tier 1.5, but I think it's going to be tier 1 towards the end of the once store championships come around. So you're going to need ways to answer locations, and Crab just helps with that. And again, things with just like high health you're just going to need to get rid of. So in this deck, specifically with Amber, you need ways to trade up with its low strength. The other 2 3-drops I run are 2 Ursula Sea Witch. This card is a tech card of mine, and I like her because she could also shift into the big Ursula. But her effect says whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character can't ready at the start of your next turn. So this has a lot of implications. Against Hiram, they can't like ready up so they could quest. They're just like little niche, like if they're running like aggro characters like maybe Daisy Duck or something with like 3 lore, they just can't quest. Mufasa, if you're running to the late game like the Sapphire Mufasa, they can't ready so that they can't quest. So stuff like that is really, really powerful, very situational, but the 3/3 is helpful, and the ability to shift into the big Ursula is really why she's there.
Can you make me a prince?
And then the songs, 4 friends on the other side. I think I run 6 songs and 4 items, so I'm not running too many non-character cards. But this also really helps. Singing this with Cinderella is powerful. You gain so much card advantage early game. You can ink what you need, and even with the inkable count, I think I only run 10 uninkables, so it's not even that hard to choose which cards to ink. But with Cinderella, singing this on turn 1, 2 is really powerful. I don't have to wait for like a shift target or anything of the matter. Speaking of more draw power, I mean, Rapunzel, gotta run Rapunzel if you're running like a mid-range Amber deck. She just draws so much for you, and you could transfer damage with other cards in here. She's just really powerful. Bouncing her back with goats or snakes is powerful, which you don't see too often in this color combo. And just in general, just questing for 2, very powerful. The other 4-drop that's also integral for this color combo is Goat. Goat bounce wins you games. It's your alternate lore condition because early game you're not really questing too much. You're kind of stabilizing for the board, trying to get rid of their board, and then mid to late game you're just running all these high lore characters that get alternative lore conditions. So you could finish off with princesses with the items with the sensor core, or you could finish off with goats, or there's other cards that could get you lore as well. So I like how this deck can attack multiple directions for the 20 lore game. Onto the 5-drops, I run the shift target queen, or her. She's just very powerful. Give a character +4, give another character -4. Just so powerful. I think she's really important in this meta. Doesn't really, not really beneficial for any other songs in this deck because I only run 2 types of songs, but she's there for the trading. She's there to help take out like Daisy, just really annoying cards. The other 5-drop I run are 4 bells, Accomplished Mystic. Shout out to my wife. She actually played this deck for the first 2 weeks, and then switched to me playing today with this deck as well. So we kept this in because I think she's really helpful in situations where you want to transfer damage over. So when you play her, move up to 3 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So that's really cool. You could a really good play that I ran with this is I ran into a character with like 2-3 damage, and then I was able to play Bell to transfer that over to an evasive character. Something that I normally have a weakness against in this deck. I run Elsa, which does have evasive, but sometimes you don't see her. So being able to transfer the damage onto like a Diablo or something like that, or something with evasive is really cool interaction. And she's a princess, and she's one of the best princesses. So princess tag synergizes with the sensor core, quest for 2, 4/4, dodges Medusa is just a really well statted card and beautiful card too. Then with that, I do run the 2 Elsas. She has Rush. She's a new card out of Shimmering Skies. 2/5. She has a Queen tag, has Rush, has Evasive, and also when you play this character, exert chosen opposing characters. So you can do a lot of shenanigans. This deck has, the Amethyst at least, has a lot of strength. So you have goats, you have snakes, you have crab. So they could help you trade with other characters where your amber cards don't necessarily could do that. But if you have a couple of those out, like your goats or something like that, you could just exert a character because of Elsa, and then run it in with the goats, and then rush her with like another character. So you could kind of clear the board with her effect. And more importantly, you run the Shift Elsa. I run only 2. I feel like 3 was just too much. You're not going to see this combo as much. And it's kind of awkward playing Elsa on 5 because you want to rush with her, but then you also want to protect her so that you could shift her on turn 6. So it's kind of an awkward play. I don't know if you guys kind of ran into that, like really just being able to take a character out with Elsa because of rush, but at the same time you want to save her because of Elsa Spirit of Winter. So kind of you got to kind of pick and choose which ones, but Elsa is great because I still run Gaston, so I can still play her on turn 6 if I have Gaston because I could just exert to play her, and she could save you a lot of games too. When you play this character, exert up to 2 chosen characters. They can't ready at the start of the next turn. So this is like an answer to like Sapphire, Mufasa, Tamatoas, like just the control heavy cards, heavy lore characters. Again, it's just really powerful to drop Elsa and prevent them from doing their shenanigans. Hiram again too as well, from exerting to draw 2. So very powerful, but I think 2 is perfect, and she does have the princess tag as well. Sorry, the queen. She does have the queen tag. Rounding off the last couple high drops to Ursula, Sea Witch Queen. She's a shift character for 5. Whenever this character quests, exert chosen character. So again, I have Elsa that could exert. I have Ursula that could exert and kind of trade in with some of the damage characters there. And then other characters can exert to sing songs. So this really hurts like Amber Steel songs. They can't like really sing with Ariel that they want. Also hurts like Under the Sea decks where they sing together, and they can't really do that to exert. So it's a good counter card for those. There are a lot of decks out there that I think Under the Sea decks are like a tier 1.5 deck as well, where they're around and they just they could definitely steal some games. So it's a good counter for that. 4/7 survives a lot of the strength characters there. Survives a Maui. Quest for 3. It's just really powerful, and I think she's a good addition in this meta. And the last 2 cards, which can win me the game, which it did a couple times, is Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph is a really good card, actually. When you play this character, return a character card from your discard pile to your hand, so it's very like Hades-esque from like back in set 1. But it does have an additional effect where it says, if that card is a princess character, you gain 2 lore. So it's an instant lore gain without having the quest, which makes this card really important because you run a lot of princesses. You run 12 princesses. Sometimes you don't even look through your whole discard pile for a princess card. Sometimes you get a goat. Sometimes you get a fox so that you could trade. You could bounce back your Elphas. You could bounce back your Wreck-It Ralph again, play the next turn. A lot of cards in here that you could kind of get back and play, but the really good synergy is towards that late game where you just need that extra lore because you're gaining some lore through the item, you're gaining some lore through goats, you're gaining lore through Wreck-It Ralph. it could win you the game. And it did. I had 19 lore one game, and then I was able to pay 7 hard cast, Wreck-It Ralph for the 7 cost, bring back a princess character, and get game. So it's a very, very exciting archetype, and I think the princess decks / queen decks have a very good spot and potential to move up from here. It's definitely at its best as it has compared to the previous sets. It's got a lot of support now with the sensor core, which has the alternate lore gain condition, and then it has cards like the Elsa, which could shift now as well with the princess if you are running the sorcerer princess tag. And then it has cards like Wreck-It Ralph, which could get you that top-end heavy lore that's also a 6/7 that you could quest for 2. So has a lot of potential. I think it's a very fun deck. You could build it, again, Amber Ruby, Amber Steel, but I think this deck provides a little bit more unique kind of perspective where you have the ability to trade with other characters with purple. You could draw cards with purple, and then you also have access to the high characters such as like Elsa, which could exert and prevent your opponent from winning that turn too as well. So give it a shot. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's a fun deck. If you guys are building this, let me know what you guys would take out or improve. Always fun to hear from you guys, and we will see you in the next one.